Good morning. My name is Chasen Ishii, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd like to now call to order the December 2023 Kakaako Authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. And the time is now 9:31.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's Kakaako board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor, boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii 96813. The HCDA communications staff is hosting this meeting. Once the meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clear audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. This is a public virtual meeting, so to prevent any distractions, if you are not a board member, staff member, or HCDA's Attorney General, please turn off your video during the meeting. If you are providing public testimony, your name will be called accordingly. Please turn your video on, clearly state your name and your affiliation, and proceed with your testimony. When you have finished, please turn off your video. In accordance with section 92-3.7C Hawaii Revised Statutes, if the authority's ICT connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you. Chair.
HCDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect the following members are present. Vice Chair Higa.
Present.
Member Apo. Member Miranda Johnson.
Present.
Member Anderson.
Present.
Member Hirai is excused. Member Evans.
Present.
Member Sakota.
Present.
For today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted into the meeting respectively. Item number 1, regular meeting minutes of October 4th, 2023. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to these minutes? If there are no comments or questions, the minutes are approved as presented. Item number 2, information and discussion. A presentation by Victoria Ward Limited regarding implementation of the Ward Village Neighborhood Master Plan and proposed amended and restated Master Plan Development Agreement to document implementation matters, rights, entitlements, and completion of public benefits beyond the expiration of the Ward Village Neighborhood Master Plan permit on January 14, 2024. Mr. Ryan Camp, Director of Planning and Development, will now present the staff report, and then representatives of Victoria Ward Limited will also make a presentation. Ryan?
Good morning, Chair Ishii and board members. Again, just to summarize, the authority approved the master plan permit on January 14th, 2009, and subsequently adopted a non-pro-tunc order on May 6, 2009 to correct a clerical omission. This permit is expiring next month, and Victoria Ward Limited is proposing to amend and restate the master plan development agreement that's associated with the master plan to address the completion of public benefits and development rights following the expiration of the Ward Neighborhood Master Plan. Again, the amended agreement could include provisions regarding improvements, reserve housing credits, and other remaining obligations. Staff will continue to work with Victoria Ward Limited to develop the language for the amended and restated master plan development agreement. In January 2024, staff intend to present the proposed agreement for authority review and approval. If available.
You. Members, are there any questions or comments? Not? Is there any,
No, what are you here from?
why don't we hear from, Victoria Ward Limited? Yes.
Aloha, good morning, Chair Ishii and fellow board members. Ka'iolani Sodaro, Senior Vice President for Planning, Victoria Ward. Here with me today, this morning is Doug Johnstone, our President of Victoria Ward Limited, as well as our Howard Hughes Hawaii Region, and Brian Kang, of course, our council. We do have a short deck package to review with everyone this morning, and we just please pause us and maybe we can facilitate questions so they're on topic as we go through our presentation. Okay. Thank you. So we are excited to recap the last 15 years of hard work, effort, and partnership with HCDA board and the staff, as well as our Kakaako community. As you all know, the lineage of Ward Village and vision of a thriving place, people, and community is one that comes long before Howard Hughes. And today we are honored to hold the stewardship and responsibility of this special place, really an oasis with a progressive vision by Victoria Ward and her family. I am sharing Francine, is it not? She controls the. Is it not? It was. It dropped me. Okay. Are we there?
There you go.
Okay. Okay, thanks for
It's,
the catch there.
number 4 on, no, number 2.
Okay. So starting at the turn of the 20th century, Victoria Ward and her daughters created Victoria Ward Limited to steward the land for generations ahead. And into the 1930s and 40s, city infrastructure improvements started to occur in the nearby area. Moana Beach Park was created by infill from area dredged harbors, as well as the Olawai Canal. We had the introduction of trolleys and cars, and we had new streets extending into the area, connecting for the first time downtown Honolulu to Waikiki. All of this really, laying the foundation for what was to come. In the 1950s and 60s, it brought an expansion of the post-World War II Honolulu waterfront. Industrial use, large warehouses, businesses began to operate in the neighborhood. The city of Honolulu purchased a substantial portion of Victoria Ward's family land to build what we all now know as Blaisdell Center and Honolulu Symphony. And shortly after statehood, the IBM building broke ground in 1961. Flag here. There we go. The 1970s and 90s brought more, large surface parking lots and a Kewalo Harbor expansion for growing commercial and recreational craft. In 1975, we had the opening of Ward Warehouse. In 1983, Ward Center opened. And then in 2001, we had the Ward Entertainment Center. In 2002, Victoria Ward Limited transitioned to General Growth Properties, who sought out the 2009 master plan approval by HCDA. And 13 years ago, in 2010, Ward Village transitioned to a locally based Howard Hughes team. Shortly after the 2009 master plan approval, Howard Hughes assumed ownership and leadership of Ward Village in executing the master plan vision and continuing community outreach efforts. The Ward neighborhood master plan was envisioned, and I'll go back in time here, quote, a new kind of neighborhood bringing new life and opportunity to the heart of Honolulu. It was said then that Ward has been a favorite gathering place for friends, socializing, business interactions, family celebrations, and community events. And we are pleased and honored to say that Ward Village is still a favorite gathering place for locals, a thriving neighborhood with retail, new commercial businesses, and filled with residents and community events and activations. Consistent with the legislature's vision to join strengths of private enterprise and public development to create a new form of long-range planning and improve development in Kakaako, over the last 15 years, HCDA and staff has has been a committed partner and a major contributor to the Ward Village journey. In reference to recent board discussions on lessons learned or takeaways of the master plan permit, we did have a few prepared comments. Since the master plan or a master plan permit is intended to encourage timely development, reduce the economic costs of development, and allow for the orderly planning and implementation of public and private development projects, and then provide a reasonable degree of certainty in the development approval process, we completely agree that the assurances and continuity of development standards and aesthetics bring substantial benefits in the long run to all parties. And this is really due to the master plan providing that greater flexibility and certain development rights to secure the better overall planning and execution because of the duration of the effort. So here, a 60-acre overview. We have 6 residential towers opened, and just, humor us to go back in time a little. Waiea opened in 2016, Anaha in 2017, Ayo in 2018, Kekilohana in 2019, A'ali'i in 2021, and Ko'ula in 2022. We have 3 residential towers under construction currently. Victoria Place, which will open in 2024, and the Park Ward Village and Ulana all started construction in 2022 through 2025. We have 5 residential towers in development. Kalai, which we're excited about breaking ground next year. We have the Launiu next, and then obviously Mahana, Melia, and Lima. We were just here approving PDPs with everyone this year. Along the way, we've established 3 unique retail districts, East Village, also known as our South Shore Marketplace, and then we have our Kamakea corridor, and then West Village, all being done by really over 100 dedicated people locally. It's a breathful, for sure. We did this slide to kind of recap, some of the board prior questions and staff. To really just kind of speak to what's happening in those 60 acres over the master plan. So we're, over 8 acres, some of that surface parking lot I talked about in the history being converted into open space and parks. We have 5 dedicated acres of new parks, 2 new playgrounds, substantial pedestrian areas through widened sidewalks and plaza additions, completely new dedicated bike lanes that didn't exist before in this part of Honolulu. And with all of the sidewalk improvements comes mobility and accessibility, which we know is an issue in Kakaako. All in, 5,845 residential units, of which 1,222 are dedicated reserved housing units. We have 14 residential and mixed use projects. And really, the eclectic commercial and retail summarized here through cafes, the growing restaurant and food venues, more retail shops, the specialized neighborhood, of the clinics, the dry cleaners, the pharmacies, the doctor's offices, rehab offices. So really making full that ability to, walk to your needs and bike to your needs. And then we still carry substantial, light industrial and office and commercial as well. So our community parks, and play space, we refer to it, exceed the master plan permit requirements. We're delivering 11% more public facility dedications, as well as 75% more open space area than required through the permit. Some of that real quick in history, the replanning of Land Block 2, which was the Victoria Place and Kalai projects, that resulted in the Makai Park growing by over 70% than initially planned in the master plan. And, how we get this all done is through the Ward Village, owner association, which maintains the area of common elements. And so similar to other master community associations, buyers are provided a summary of the master development, the master association, and the master documents and the declaration and purchase agreement, as well as the developer's public report. The way that master association documentations are set up, the individual condo boards are responsible for collecting and paying the master association on behalf of all the individual condo owners. the project master's dues. Typically with master associations, fees are not on a quote on an individual owner basis. And that is the case also for the Ward Village Owners Association. For information on the Ward Village Owners Association, an owner would ask their respective, residence, building, AOUO, or managing agent, subject to that building's unique AOUO arrangement, but who's managing their association, to inquire with the master board managing agent as a resource to address any inquiries and additional information that they desire at any time. And the master association sets its annual budget each year to account for the anticipated costs, which would include new scope or, area of common responsibility that could come online, such as parks, so forecasting into the future. And then the revenues associated, right? So that's the collection of the individual AOUOs with the residential and commercial contributions. And we have just more progress renderings of what's coming for the community parks. And this is a big, achievement and accomplishment of the master plan, is that within a half mile of all these new parks are about 17,000 Kakaako and Honolulu residents. And that's really significant when you think about, the importance of open space and recreation. So we're really proud in increasing that accessibility to such a substantial, resident base. The rendering shows the landscaping and programming details for both Malka and Makai. And you can see hints of some of the art sculpture, the playground equipment, the public art, and just creating a variety of spaces, whether it's field space, which we will have on the Malka Park, up to basically if you envision like a football, grassed area, football field, as well as event lawns so that we can have more community and tradition-based activations, and then pavilions so that individuals, groups can congregate on their own. And then through all the parks, we'll have bike and walking paths to really create and support the multimodal use safely and connecting over to Kewalo Harbor and then on to Ala Moana Park. So Makai Park is underway and it opens next year. So we're really excited. And then we'll be able to come back, open the Malka Park. And then when Ulana opens, we'll have Kalai. So it's a big year of parks coming next year and moving forward. So we're really excited. And, there has been real transformation, we believe through staff feedback and board input over the last decade, and really an achievement in realizing the Oahe Street Promenade in a way that's quite incredible and much more green, with dozens of canopy shade trees, more native landscaping, all lined streets, dedicated bike lanes. I spoke to that, and just more outdoor dining and retail. I think we all love that about living here, and we have more of that coming. And we, believe that it promotes an active and safe streetscape both day and night. And that's a real big key component in doing open space well. On the upper left-hand corner will be one of the first of its kind. We are converting a portion of the Oahe Road lot, renting the Launiu into a plaza, an urban plaza, which we've co-programmed with staff. So we're really excited about that. And, a lot of underground work going on. So we apologize for the steel plates, but there's significant, area regional infrastructure and investment that we've been able to do for the broader community. Lots of water and sewer lines. And so with this is how we get to the creation of the new roads and sidewalks, and then ultimately increase accessibility for the public at large. So we just did some real-time, photo updates of the construction underway. And if we pause, for the why and, the who, it's really, we have created a generation of employment and immense economic impact. In 2002, we did an economic impact study of the Ward Village Master Plan by Paul Brubaker, and everything I'll share is based in 2021 dollars. But just in the first decade of the master plan from 2012 to 2021, the development and construction outlays were over $2.2 billion. And as we look forward towards 2030 for the other projects, you know, I mentioned, that direct impact is over $3.5 billion to go. This, if we bundle all the indirect impacts, you know, we would add another $2 billion to our economy. And the worker earnings in our first decade were $1.3 billion. Moving forward in the next decade, another $1.3 billion. And under the master plan, if we kind of annualize it, the full span of the redevelopment efforts have an annual average of 4,000 jobs a year. And that's direct, indirect, and all induced impacts of the Ward Village contribution to our economy. The state tax revenue collections alone in this last decade were $235 million. Moving forward into the next decade, $240 million. And in total, if we include, you know, kind of the bigger number of state impact, the master plan will have contributed $470 million in state tax revenues. And that's not the ongoing basis too, right, of the economic engine. And all these benefits are in addition to the over $160 million in shared equity created by the Ward Village Reserved Housing Program for HCDA and the state to continue and invest into the future for housing. And, you know, we have a lot going on, but the community activations are really around the clock, and we continue to enjoy this part of the master plan and input and interaction with all of our residents in Honolulu, visitors to the area. And along the way, we have partnered with over 180 community nonprofits. We have made over $4 million in donations to date. And in our continuing partnership with Hawaii Community Foundation, as part of our development milestones with our projects, we have $1.5 million with Hawaii Community Foundation to continue to support our local community. Many of our employees volunteer hundreds of hours in community service and serving on boards as well. Just some highlights from recent events. From the beginning, the Ward Village Master Plan held a commitment to sustainability. You'll note an excerpt from the original application to the right that envisions sustainability and efficient land utilization and optimizing of resources. Previously, the board had asked a question on dwelling unit land area equivalents. And so just contrasting Ward Village to central Oahu development project areas versus our Ward Village utilization, you'll see that comp there for 1 acre, 7 single family dwelling units per acre compared to the 97 dwelling units out in the central plain, or excuse me, the reverse in Ward Village. Yeah, so it's stark. The member Anderson's question before. And, we're pleased to share this summer, we were recognized by the USGBC as the top lead developer in the state of Hawaii. You can see the current lead certifications that we have now. A'ali'i was just formally certified, and we have a handful of additional projects registered with LEED. And we report annually on this as well in our communities report for the community to follow. And as we wrap the year and focus on, community and our families, we invite everyone to our holiday events and activations to celebrate the neighborhood. The holiday guide is on our website, which is wardvillage.com. And so we just, ask everybody check it out. And that's the conclusion of our formal presentation. Thank you, Chair and Director.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions or comments?
And Chair, for the record, I just want to note that Peter, a member of Full Joint.
Hello, sorry, I just turned my thing on. I have a question. The just out of curiosity, you folks have privatized the harbor, you have the long-term lease. What is the general thinking when you went after the harbor as to how it connects to the rest of the development scenario?
When
Chihuahua
we-
Basin, sorry, that's what I'm talking about, not Alawai.
Apollo Basin, I think the context was a series of the piers were starting to become no longer functional and needed a series of repairs and capital investment. So it actually represented a great public-private partnership in that sense, where we could expand the number of slips, add a much-needed fueling station, and also look to have some integration with our operating or our commercial portfolio. So there's some synergies in terms of, tremendous amount of entrepreneurs that are out there who provide, security oversight at times. We've got maintenance, we've got landscaping, and ultimately there's going to be some great connectivity, particularly with the overhead walkway that's going to connect the Victoria Ward Park Mackay down to the harbor and Ala Moana Beach Park. So I think, we've always been looking at how to improve, I think, the coastal connection of Ward Village, and then also represent something that's going to be good for the community down by the beach park and the harbor.
Will it have any significant effect on of how the harbor is used with respect to who gets to moor there?
I believe those rules are all established via the state.
Sorry, can't hear.
Sorry about that. I believe the rules are all consistent and remain so with the state parameters that have been in place for quite some time. So the rules of priority and leasing and things like that remain consistent.
And member Poe, if I can jump in there, before the harbors were transferred to us, it was owned by DOT. And when we got the harbors, there was a time when we were operating it, and then I think Alamar was managing it for us. We realized, I think, if I recall the history of this, we realized that as an agency, we did not have the bandwidth or the expertise to manage a harbor and to, take care of all the slips and everything. So I think in that sense, it was a good sort of public-private partnership where Howard Hughes is willing to step in under a lease. They have spent a considerable amount of money on repairing some of the floating docks. There's more to be done, but it was, I think it's an example of a public-private partnership in action. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, the reason I asked, I'm curious, there's going to be some I guess, a couple of proposals to privatize the Alawai Yacht Harbor. So I was kind of interested if, there were what some of the scenarios were. Anyway, not relevant. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Paul. I had a question on the community association, Master Community Association. So for the Master Community Association, is there going to be a separate board then that's going to be established for that group? And how is that going to be administered going forward in the future?
So there exists already a Ward Village Owners Association board. And actually just last month, the Ward Village Owners Association board had its annual meeting, in which invitations were sent to all the AOU boards, and then they sent different representatives to attend. I'm not on that board, but so it's already established. And then as the community grows, like most master associations, then additional seats are created to match the equivalent dwelling units and commercial unit members. And so that's how it grows over time.
So that board will have authority to then make the decisions as far as the increase of services,
Correct.
or how they would like to utilize the member
Area
services
common, yeah.
in the common areas.
Mhm.
I see.
And that lives out into perpetuity, like all master communities. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
A little different in the sense of I'm used to or familiar with other master communities, but each owner is access or charged accordingly. But in this case, it's the AOA, OHO, the AOU
Yeah,
that's responsible
for the collection.
for the
of
collection.
individual.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it's not a direct collection.
Correct.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. if I
Sure.
may.
Mhm.
So it's assessed to the individual AOLs of the buildings, and then the AOL then bills each unit owner some proportionate amount of those fees,
It's a collection mechanism.
collection.
Yeah,
mechanism.
that's done at service, so the AOUO manage their agent, and then it goes, and then the AOUO board pays up to the master.
Okay, and if if a unit owner defaults on a payment of that fee, then does the AOL of the building then go after them? Is that the mechanism, the recourse?
In this instance, I'm not an owner, so I
Oh,
don't
okay,
know it from that perspective, so we'd have to research that, because that's kind of in the
Okay.
association. I don't know what the mechanism
Okay.
is within the owner group.
Okay.
So,
But it's a fee that's passed. on,
Yeah.
okay, on some.
Yeah.
Proportion. Okay, thank you, Chair.
So just another question on that. So there's no stipulations as far, I guess the ones that I've seen out there are if the payments are not occurring or the transfer of services needs to occur based off of a tenant lease type agreement. So in this scenario, there's no administrative on the board part. What I mean is, like, for example, if someone was leasing or renting out a unit in one of the buildings, the AOL buildings, they don't have a requirement then as far as agreements to be presented to say that they can utilize whatever services that they're providing as a community.
So does the
Association.
renter have the same access rights as the
Right.
owner of the?
But some
unit?
communities, they track it, right, based
Right.
off of agreements, rental agreements to ensure that they are tenants of that particular community. In this case, I don't know if there's any common type elements in that case, but
I mean, I think it would go, it effectively lives with the landlords, if the landlord's providing use and enjoyment of their unit to a long-term renter. I think it would be consistent with that use of the particular unit.
yeah, but they have, so in the past, like,
Mhm.
familiar like with Millie Lonnie Association, right? So like Millie Lonnie, you have to provide the agreement, the rental agreement, to allow your renters to enjoy the community services. So not sure if there's any that kind of
Mhm.
common services that's gonna be there, but
Yeah, Mililani also has pools and rec rooms
Rec
and
rooms,
other
right.
components, the area of common elements that we have are all in the public realm.
I see.
So maybe there's some nuance in that way.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they don't see that being a concern
no,
in the future.
but we would, I guess it's really a renter's rights question, it sounds like. Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with renter rights.
Any other questions from the board?
I have some follow-up questions along those lines. Good morning, Kailani and Doug. To answer your question, I think the Ward Village Owners Association fees come through each owner's maintenance fees every month, and then that gets aggregated and paid to the Ward Village Owners Association. But one of my concerns, my question for both Doug and Kailani is, I want to know how to think about, I guess, the progression of the public spaces and the expenses associated with kind of keeping those at a nice level. Like there's a lot of common space parks, common space. I think we've talked about like public bathrooms in that area as well. So I kind of want to get your opinion on how to think about those expenses as provided by the Owners Association, and that transition of the Owners Association, like you said, moving towards having representation from the different buildings in Ward Village.
Yeah, thank you, Member Sakota. And maybe, so the annual board meeting notice does provide all the financials, which are both kind of a recap of the past and then the forecasting to the future that has all those area of common elements so that they can be deliberated, right, in the board setting. So that request for the specifics of that, you could get through your AOUO agent, and they can ask the master and they would provide it to any owner that way. And then there's a process to get more information or have a meeting or clarify, but the annual meeting, questions like that are asked and addressed. And then it's the master association documents speak to the timeline for the questions, that you mentioned,
Okay.
cherry sheet of how it grows.
Are
so
there?
that-
Okay. Sorry, I mean, one of the concerns that I have is that I believe that Howard Hughes is, in the interim while Ward Village is being developed, sort of subsidizing some of the costs or events that are going on in the common spaces at Ward Village. So those expenses are not expressed in the Ward Village Owners Association budgets. So one of my concerns is that, all of a sudden that those budgets start going up as Howard Hughes sort of decreases the amount of support for the community.
I mean, if you're referring to some of the activations, like the Christmas wrapping and concerts and things like that, those are more in the retail and community marketing or activation space. So it's kind of a separate vehicle than the master association that we're talking about. So I wouldn't commingle,
Okay.
call it the maintenance fees and the marketing activities per se.
They're separate.
Got you. But those marketing activities are paid for by Howard Hughes?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And to be honest, also a lot of them are with community partnerships. So, more and more what we're seeing is providing a venue, collaborating with a nonprofit or, a community group that wants to come in and showcase what they do. So more and more that's starting to take place as you have the facilities to accommodate it.
Thanks. Those events are great, by the way. It's just when I look at them, I go, wow, they're great, but they're probably expensive. So
make sure you check
that's
out
why
all
I asked the question.
There's definitely a lineup coming up.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I actually have another question. One of the big concerns with Anaha, where I live, and I think all of the buildings, condos going on is just insurance costs that are going up. And I can imagine as the developer that's a concern going forward to you. So I wonder if you could shed any light on sort of the status of the market and sort of the ability to sort of hedge out or limit the insurance liabilities for the buildings going forward.
As far as the overall insurance markets, I wouldn't say I'm an insurance professional or an expert in that realm, but I will say we are focused on making sure we deliver the appropriate coverage, particularly at the time of turnover and during the construction process, et cetera. But it's obviously kind of a macro and a regional thing that a lot of folks are watching, because it affects commercial properties, it affects residential properties, construction, et cetera. So I guess what I would say to that is we are working with all the right professionals in town, and I think ensuring that we've got the appropriate precautions that are taking place, and you're adapting to the market realities.
Yeah. Member Sakota, I'll also interject that the government is starting to get involved. The government, it has gathered the governor's attention. He is working with the insurance commissioner in trying to come up with different options. It's a nationwide issue, unfortunately. climate change is real, the catastrophic situation in many different areas, not just here in Hawaii, has occurred far greater than anticipated. So the insurance market has been pretty much decimated internationally and nationally. Thus, insurance in general, especially when it comes to what they call concentrated risk for catastrophic challenges. Concentrated risk would be anywhere you have a high density of condominiums, for example, or high density of housing. It's become a major challenge. Hawaii has exacerbated a challenge in the sense the Lahaina fires have also highlighted many other issues that are occurring currently with the fact that, you know, fire was never on the radar, as wildfire was really never on the radar from a risk perspective. I mean, it was, but not taken to the level it is today. And so what's happening is you're actually having more and more what we call admitted or carriers that are approved by Hawaii's insurance commissioner pulling out of this field. In fact, in today's world in Hawaii, it is very difficult to get an admitted carrier today to write the entire full property value of a condominium. And they would have to literally go to what they call excess markets or surplus markets, which is far costlier than an admitted carrier here. And, you know, the carriers are just not looking at it as a risk they want to take on. They've lost a lot of money in covering these buildings. And you may say, you know, there was situations where you have new development coming up. And they're like, wait a minute, it's a new development, it's sprinkler. Why wouldn't the insurance carriers take on this risk, right? Because it should be a good risk. It's not on the ocean. It's brand new. It's sprinkler, new construction. But the reality is they're looking at it globally, not just locally at one building. They're looking at it from a perspective of, yeah, but I have 10 other condominiums within a 5-mile radius or a 3-mile radius. And so it's a challenge, and it's trickled down to the point where there's over the last I spoke to the Mortgage Bankers Association, there's over 350 AOAs today that are not covered to full, at least from a standpoint of especially hurricane, they're not covered to full property limits, which has been a huge challenge now for what they call personal insurance or HO6 policies. So the HO6 policies today, a lot of them require a certain higher deductibles. In conjunction to that, the Mortgage Bankers Association are involved now because most of the boards that are making the determination and decision on not getting full property limits when it comes to sublimits, especially on hurricane, are not understanding or not realizing the ramifications of that. And one of the biggest ramifications is that you're not able to get a mortgage or a refinance if that building does not have full property limits, even sublimits. Because the banks are not able to sell it to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and so forth, because one of their requirements from a federal government perspective is full property coverage limits. Thus, there's over 350 AOAs today in Hawaii that do not have full coverage limits. And they're saying, well, but we still can get a loan from a different bank. Well, most of those, none of the local banks, all the local banks, talk about the big four, are not doing loans on these condominiums that are on this list. The only ones that are national banks that are not aware of it yet, but they are slowly being aware that these properties are not covered to the level that it needs to be. So it is an issue. The entire insurance community is aware of it. They've been trying to work with the mortgage banking community to talk to state government to see what we can do to potentially address it. So it's a big issue, Member Socorro.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, one of the, not to cover everyone, but one of the things I'm concerned about is that, we're sort of in the affordable housing market as well. And those determinations or actually acquiring a mortgage could make that very difficult in sort of the first-time home buyers moving into the reserved housing units. So that's why I bring it up.
That is the priority of the government right now. That's why they are very much
Okay.
concerned. Thank you.
Right.
Any other questions or comments? Remember, Soko, that's kind of my world living right now.
Yeah, sorry, kind of a downer
That's all.
topic, but
All right. Do we have any public testimony? No public testimony? Okay. Any other comments, members? If not, thank you very much for your presentation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, item number 3, discussion presentation by HCDF staff regarding the planning, design, and construction of community facilities at the Mother Waldron Neighborhood Park, 525 Coral Street, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813, and further described in the long tax map key number 2-1-051-005 that would include the space to be used by Honolulu Men's Shed, a Hawaii nonprofit corporation, and section 501c3 tax exempt organization and use by the community for other community activities. Executive Director Craig Nakamoto will now present the staff report.
Thank you, Chair. And members of the authority, really glad to present this staff report. And I also have present in the boardroom, Mr. Nambu. He's the treasurer of Honolulu and Kupuna Shed, and he's ready to answer any questions should the board have any questions. One of the agency's goals, one-year goals for the Kakaako Development District was to, present or propose public facilities improvements for the Kakaako district. And one of the ideas that I had was to relocate the Kupuna Shed, the Honolulu Men's Kupuna Shed into Mother Waldron Park. Currently, they are at in Honolulu harbor space rented from DOT. They have until December 31st to move out. Fortunately, they have found a temporary space in Kakaako that they're using, but they still need permanent space. And I want to thank Director Sniffen and Member Miranda Johnson is on the call. Thank them for their assistance to the Men's Shed in helping them relocate. So while they had to deliver the bad news that their arrangement had to end at the end of December, they were really nice enough to offer relocation assistance to Kupuna Shed. I know it helped them a lot too. They're still relocating, but they're kind of more moved in at the new Lana Lane space. Mother Waldron Park is a park that's part owned by HCDA and part owned by DLNR, but it is managed by the city. We're grateful for the city Parks and Rec that they maintain the space. It is a park that's somewhat well used. There's pickleball courts. There's a dog off-leash dog park on the west side of the park, and there's some activities that go on in the open space. But the park has been somewhat beset by homeless, some alleged reporting of illegal activities taking place. So the idea was to try to activate the park with this kind of senior community center and workshop that could include space for Kupuna Shed. An organization such as that would steward the park and also occupy space. What we want to do is use our funds to start up planning, which would include looking at all the environmental issues, the cultural, resource issues attendant with, building a facility there. If we were to build a facility, it's gonna require legislative funding and support. But I believe that if we can build a kind of a facility like that, it's gonna provide much needed activation and a kind of a place where not only seniors, because it's not just open to seniors and it's not just open to men, it's open to men and women of all ages. You know, on a personal note, my journey with Kupuna Shed started around 4 years ago. I found out that Kupuna Shed or Men's Shed was started in Australia in the 1980s. Because they found out that retired men, older men, were subject to isolation and loneliness. So about 4 years ago, when we moved out of our house and into our condominium, my wife said, "I'm gonna take you to this place called Men's Shed. I want to introduce you to Men's Shed." So I don't know what she thought was happening to me, whether it's isolation or loneliness, but that was my first introduction to the Men's Shed at the harbor. And then the folks at Men's Shed came to us, approached us to see if we had space in Kakaako. I said, you know, space at Kakaako is hard to find at a reasonable price. So I said, I'll think about it, and then idea of the Men's Shed at maybe Mother Waldron came about. We will be meeting, myself, Senator Moriwaki, Speaker Saiki, Council Member Dos Santos Tam, and I will be meeting with the mayor and his park staff, kind of get their concurrence on this, because I don't want to do anything without their concurrence. And I want to thank Ryan, Tam, and Charlene Okawong and Nancy Nishikawa for really their help in kind of taking this wild idea and then helping me get grounded in the realities of a facility, because the park is on the National Historic Registry. Part of the planning activity is going to have to be determining whether it's compatible there with the historic relevance of the park, and also just compatible from a people perspective. But my view is that Kupuna and people of all ages in a urban setting like this can benefit from a workshop setting where they can come and socialize. The Kupuna Shed builds tables for schools, they build, make other things, they repair bicycles that are abandoned and give it to, you know, homeless and other people. And just do a lot of work for other community organizations. So I believe it's a worthy cause, and we're gonna spend the time to plan it with and use funds from our own funds. And hopefully we can get legislative funding to build something like this. So anyway, I just wanted to thank the board for indulging me in this. I really think this kind of facility in a urban setting will be good, a good resource for everyone. So Chair, thank you so much, and open to questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Executive Director Nakamura? Member Paul, you're on mute.
Yeah, comment. Oh, I think that's really great. And it's important. You know, one of the things I always ponder about, you know, being raised at the time I did, everybody had a yard, everybody could have, you know, to cuddle a pig in their yard, etc. And it's a whole new shift into an urban environment, high rises. So projects like that help create a sense of community, you know, where everybody belongs there and provides opportunities for people within the community to mix. It's the stuff people walking dogs, which seems to be the direction that all of this is headed. I hope it is anyway. But it's great. Thank you, Craig, for sharing that.
Thank you, Member Paul. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
It's Kevin Sakota. I agree with Member Poe's comments, and you know, it's a step in the right direction to build community, right? Which is what we talked about when you joined. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Sakota. It really is about building a community, and then part of that space might include some space for community functions, meetings. And there's a lot of logistics that need to be worked out if it comes to fruition, like operations, maintenance, but, and other things. But I think you have to take a first step in everything, and I think this is the first step that we're gonna undertake as an agency with using our own funds, and then hopefully, if the planning process is favorable, I think work with the legislators to, elected officials of the district to get funding. So thank you, Member Sakota.
Any other comments? I do want to say, I do also agree that this is a great way to activate that park, the Mother Washington Park. I think it's already been activated to an extent, but I think further activation will really go a long way for that park, as Craig said. I think it'd be better served to have more usage than it has currently. So,
Thank you, Chair. Ishii.
do we have any public testimony on this?
Yeah, we had one, questions.
Okay, we did receive one from Jean Jeremiah, but it was really more questions that we are and will be addressing as we go through the studies.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other public testimony? Is there anyone on? No? If not, okay, let's move to the report of the executive director.
Thank you, Chair. The ED report is located is in tab 4. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that I think the board has been, and the public have been asking about. Two projects, the Kolowalu Park off-leash dog park project and the permanent crosswalk improvements at Kolowalu Park. So the work on the dog park started on November 20th. If you pass by the area, you can see the construction fence up. Our contractor has started some work. On the crosswalk, we're expecting that the contractor will start work on December 11th. However, both parks still require permitting from DPP. As far as we know, the permits have been reviewed, but they have not been signed off. Honestly, it's taken an inordinate amount of time for us to get these permits. We're kind of at a critical point, especially with, I think, the crosswalk. If we're gonna allow the contractor to start work on December 11th, we're gonna have to get those permits. So I know that the public is anxious about the completion date. And as of right now, it is really hard to nail down or give a specific completion date. There's permitting delays that we've ran into. There are also long lead times on certain kind of materials. Flashing beacons, for example, and the street lamp for the crosswalk are on a long lead time. So until the contractor places the order, determines when the materials are gonna come in, we're not gonna have an exact, I can't really give an exact completion date. What I'm telling everybody is, the agency is motivated to finish those projects quickly. Our capital improvements team, Mark Kokoda, with help from Charlotte on Thai, have been on this, and they're motivated to complete it as soon as possible. And that's what I've been telling the public is we want to complete it as soon as possible, but it's hard for me to kind of pinpoint an exact completion date with those factors, permit delays and long lead times on certain items. So thank you, Chair, board members. Those are the things I wanted to highlight for the board members.
Any questions on the executive director's report?
It's Kevin. Excited to see the dog park preparations going on, but it also reminds me of that there is no sort of a dog run within Ward Village. And, I still walk by the parks, the common area parks in Ward Village, and see people walking their dogs and see children playing, rolling around in the grass too. So that always brings to mind the comments about Kolowalu Park as well. But if you can, we should have asked this actually in the meeting before, in the presentation before, but if we can get Howard Hughes to consider a dog park in the Ward Village area, I think that's something that will actually come down the line in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Member Sakota. I'm hoping that this off-leash dog park is gonna alleviate some of the, the need for other kind of dog parks in the Ward Village area. I certainly know that there's in Kolowalu Park, Makai, there are a lot of owners with dogs. There's a strong desire to have an off-leash dog park, so I'm hoping this is gonna help that. And then I'll be in touch with Kailani about my dog, about a dog run in their parks. I'm not sure that's something in their other radar that they want to do, but I will ask.
And with the activation of Mother Wellington Park and the activation of that I would say synergy with that South area, I think might help as well. Because they have a
Yes.
dog run park.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think we're hoping that all of those things will contribute to more people coming to Mother Wellington Park, using the off-leash dog park there. And maybe it'll motivate the city to improve that off-leash dog park a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think something has to be done at Mother Wellington Park.
Yeah. All right. Is there any other comments for Executive Director Nakamoto? If not, is there any public testimony? Not, thank you for those who joined us on Zoom or in person. This concludes our business for today. I want to wish all of you a happy holiday season. This is our last meeting of the year, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so the meeting is now adjourned at 10:32. Thank you.
And we'll start our Kalalo meeting in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, yeah, 5 minutes. Thank you.